The quiet clink of silverware filled the air, accompanied by the soft murmur of patrons engaged in conversation. It was a typical evening at Rosie's Diner, a staple in the small town that had seen better days but still held a warm, familiar charm. Emma, the waitress, moved swiftly between the tables, her tired eyes scanning the room. She'd worked here for years, and although the work was exhausting, it was always comforting in its predictability. But tonight, something was different. A man she had never seen before sat alone at a corner table, his sharp attire standing out in the worn, modest setting. He ordered a steak with a tone that made the whole room fall silent for a moment. Something about him, the way he held himself, seemed out of place. But Emma didn't give it much thought. Her focus was on the job. Yet, as she placed his steak before him, something caught her eye. His stiff posture, his watchful gaze. He wasn't just waiting for his meal, he was waiting for something else, something unknown. Emma's instincts told her there was more to him than met the eye. She couldn't shake her feeling. And so, with a quiet glance at the plate, she slipped a folded note under it, unseen by the man, but meant to speak for all the workers who had silently endured the strain of their jobs, their lives, and their dreams. Where are you watching from today? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories like this. The note, simple yet full of meaning, would do something Emma could not have predicted. It would stop Robert Hawthorne, the CEO of a multi-million-dollar restaurant chain, cold. Unbeknownst to her, Robert had decided to go undercover in one of his company's smallest diners to see firsthand the struggles his employees faced. He had arrived disguised, hoping to understand the realities of the workers behind the corporate balance sheets. But this simple note, slipped into the diner's quiet rhythm, would open his eyes to something far deeper than he could have ever imagined. In the early hours of the morning, Emma started her day just like any other. The chill of autumn nipped at her skin as she pulled her scarf tighter and made her way to the diner. The streets were still quiet, the world holding its breath before the day began. Emma cherished these moments. The slow pace of the early morning, the scent of distant bakery ovens mixing with the earthy scent of damp leaves, the stillness before the storm of the day arrived. As she stepped into the diner, the familiar hum of activity greeted her. Bob, the grizzled cook, was already at the stove, his hands moving expertly as he prepared breakfast specials. Sarah, the youngest waitress, was setting menus out with a shy smile. Despite the exhaustion that weighed heavily on her, Emma found comfort in this routine. The diner had always been more than a job. It was a second home, a place where the town's memories were woven into every corner, every meal, every face that walked through the door. But it wasn't always easy. Emma balanced 2 jobs just to make ends meet, all while raising her son, Jacob, a bright-eyed boy with dreams bigger than she could promise. His laughter was a light in her life, but the pressure to give him a future that didn't include the struggles she had known kept her awake at night. The diner, too, was struggling. The town had seen better days, and so had Rosie's Diner. Once bustling, now the table sat half empty on many days. Repairs were delayed, equipment was aging, and the staff worked harder than ever just to keep the doors open. Emma often listened to her coworkers' worries, missed birthdays, sick children, the weight of bills that never seemed to stop piling up. They fought to survive, but they also fought for something deeper: dignity, community, each other. Emma's manager, Linda, often spoke of this, reminding the team that they weren't just working for a paycheck, they were fighting for a piece of something real. Meanwhile, Robert Hawthorne, the CEO, prepared for his own kind of day. A man used to polished suits, board meetings, and the sterile world of corporate strategy,
Robert's life had been a far cry from the small, struggling diner on Main Street. Yet something had driven him to disguise himself and visit. He wanted to see what his employees truly experienced, to understand the struggles beyond the spreadsheets and reports. His decision to go undercover was met with skepticism by his colleagues, but Robert was determined. He wanted to understand the human side of the business, beyond the numbers. And so, dressed down in jeans and a jacket, he entered the diner, blending in with the early crowd, ordering a steak. It was a simple meal, but in this setting, it felt out of place. Emma noticed the man immediately. He was different from the usual crowd. His sharp, impatient movements
betrayed a man accustomed to a faster pace of life, one that didn't slow down for anyone. She recognized that tension. She had seen it in countless faces before. Customers rushing through their meals, staff moving faster to keep up with demands. But this man was different. There was something more to it. And then, when his steak arrived, Emma made a decision. She slipped the note beneath his plate, knowing full well that it could change everything. Robert looked up from his meal surprised and glanced at Emma for a brief moment. A flicker of confusion passed through his eyes, but he didn't speak. Instead, he unfolded the note after a few seconds, his gaze fixed on the simple words. Behind every plate is a person struggling to make ends meet. We work hard, but it's not easy. Please understand. The words hit him harder than he expected. The cold business exterior he had perfected in years of corporate leadership began to crack, just slightly, but enough to make him pause. Emma continued her work, moving between tables with practiced ease, but her mind was elsewhere. Robert sat in silence reading the note, feeling the weight of its meaning press down on him. Over the next few days, Robert returned to the diner, both in disguise and openly. He began to listen, to really listen to the stories of the staff. He heard about missed birthdays, about sick children being cared for between shifts, about the dreams deferred but never forgotten. The diner's small world, once seen only as a number on a report, had come alive for him. And with each conversation, each new story, the walls of his corporate detachment started to crumble. Emma noticed the change in him, the way he observed, the way he asked questions. He wasn't just a CEO anymore. He was a man seeing the reality of the lives behind the business. But change wasn't easy. The company's board was resistant to Robert's attempts to prioritize employee welfare. They saw his undercover experiment as a distraction, a risk to shareholder confidence. Rumors of budget cuts and impending layoffs began to circulate among the staff, creating a storm of fear and uncertainty. Emma shared her worries with Linda and a few others, and they decided that it was time to stand up and make their voices heard. In a quiet meeting room, they laid bare their lives, their struggles, and their pride. Robert listened, moved by their honesty and resilience. "I promise you," he said after a long silence, "I'll do better for you, for your families, for this community." His words sparked renewed hope, but the road ahead was still steep. Emma, determined as ever, found strength in the small acts of kindness that still seemed to exist in the world around her. A neighbor brought soup, a customer left an unexpected tip, a child's smile broke through the weariness. But the challenges kept coming. An unexpected health inspection brought new threats, and the diner faced further scrutiny. The weight of it all was almost too much to bear. Linda confided in Emma one evening, her voice cracking with doubt. "Sometimes I wonder if it's all worth it." Emma squeezed her friend's hand tightly. "It is," she said with conviction. "We fight because we must, because giving up isn't an option." Robert, too, faced his own battles. The pressure from the board intensified. They wanted results, and they wanted them fast. The staff felt the tension in the air, the unspoken fear that their hard work might not be enough. But Robert stood firm, and the team rallied around him. They embraced transparency and open communication, and slowly but surely, the diner's fortunes began to shift. Customers returned,
Smiles grew brighter. A sense of family blossomed. In the weeks that followed, Robert's leadership evolved. No longer the distant CEO, he became a friend, a leader shaped by humility and care. He walked the diner floor regularly, chatting with staff, listening without judgment, and learning from their resilience. The diner had changed, but it still held the same warmth, the same sense of community. One evening, as the stars began to twinkle overhead, Emma stood on the diner's porch, reflecting on how far they had come. The road had been long and difficult, but they had made it, together. And in that moment, surrounded by her friends, her co-workers, and the town that had supported them, Emma realized that their fight had been worth it. If this part of Emma's story has moved you, please share your own moments of courage and resilience in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if you feel inspired, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of hope and resilience. Your support helps share these journeys with those who need them most. As Emma watched the last of the golden sun dip below the horizon, she whispered a quiet prayer for continued strength, for kindness to flourish, and for every small victory to be celebrated.